Welcome to the Football Fun Factory podcast, where I challenge Jonny and James with questions about children's football coaching. This week, the subject that we're talking about is helping shy and anxious children. You ain't going to believe this, but as a child, I was incredibly shy and incredibly anxious, and the coaches that I first had helped me a lot with that. So, what do you think about that?
I know that Colin and Martin were fantastic.
The best.
Coaches.
The best.
And really supported of you with your development. So,
well, look at you now, Luke. You're
Thriving.
thriving
Now,
and flourishing.
A shy, anxious adult. Let's kick off with the first question. You've got a new child attending for the first time and they're refusing to step onto the pitch because they're so shy. They don't want to play with the other children. How are you going to deal with that situation within their first training session, Jonny?
Glad I went first. I know me and JC will have a very similar answer to this. Go and show that you care and go over to them and then pop a football down just in front of them.
James?
I would invite them to be my assistant coach.
Ooh.
Oh, that's I've got a decision to make here. Two really good answers. I'm going to go with Jonny Martin because I've seen him do it so many times with children that come to their first session. And you're fantastic as well, but he's
This is actually a skill that I've stolen off JC.
Okay, James. Go on then, John.
So it's one thing that we do within our sessions here at the Football Fun Factory. So if a child is nervous, anxious, before their first session, we'll always go over, show that we care. We'll try and build relationships with that child, maybe get down to their level, speak to them about the shirt that they're wearing. If it's a Paw Patrol top, if it's a Man United shirt, give them a bit of stick. I'm joking. But build relationship with them as much as possible. Try and make them at ease. Speak to their parent as well and understand a little bit more about their child. And then what we'll do is invite them into the session. If they don't then join in, then go, no worries, I'm going to pop this football down just in front of you. The reason you put it down in front of them and not give it to them, because if you give it to them, they can then reject it, push it away, and leave you with egg on your face. So if you put it down in front of them, I guarantee now, if I had a football by your foot and gave it to you now, you can't help but play with it. It's so tempting. You want to go have a kick around and you want to get touches of it. So putting it down in front of the child, before long, the temptation will be too much. They'll start having a kick around with their grown up on the sidelines, and then hopefully you can then, following that, get them involved in the session.
And using that technique, and I've seen you do it hundreds of times before, like, does that, in the main, that will get them into the session within a period of time?
Yeah, I think you need to then keep revisiting it and going over to the child and then picking them up, say, oh, what a powerful kick that was, and then slowly make them more comfortable in the surroundings and comfortable with you. But then more often than not, that will then result in them coming over. I think probably a next intervention from that is what James said. Maybe they're not confident enough to come and join in the session, but being your assistant coach or maybe watching the session may then help them build their confidence up over time to then join in.
And what does that look like? Obviously, you're leading a session, you've got 16 kids over here, one child over here playing with their grown-up on the side. Like, how do you work that interaction between leading a session and trying to get the little boy or girl who's not feeling confident enough to come in, to get them in?
So I think probably trying to direct instructions to the parent and give them information is key. So if you see little Billy or little Jennifer looking over, see if you can encourage them to come over to me and I'll help integrate them into the session. So directing some of your instructions and encouragement to the parent, because ultimately they're the ones then are best placed to support that shy, nervous and anxious child to get into the session. And then it's just in the natural breaks, if you can, then go over and show you support. And
I think it's quite hard in terms of sometimes in that situation that I've seen with the parent, because they feel really embarrassed that their child's not joining and they're sort of trying to go and play when it's sort of speaking to the parent as much as a child in terms of it's fine. Like, it doesn't, like what's that conversation like?
I think it's saying things like, look, don't force it, don't keep pushing it. They'll join in when they're ready. It's absolutely fine if they're at the sidelines having a kick about with you. If they actually just watch this whole session, then come back next week and then they may be confident enough to then join in. So trying to give them assurances that it's okay. understand the situation, give them a bit of patience, and or recommend they have patience with that situation. But the parents, once they know what to do, they tend to be relatively good. I think it's probably then the parents that aren't educated because they've not come across it before. They do maybe keep saying, "Oh, go on, over you go," and then actually that can make it worse. So just educating them and informing them.
Yeah, fantastic. James, you mentioned about sort of being the assistant coach. That would be your first thing. Like, is that something that would be done? Like Jonny said, that may be something after that initial leaving the ball with them at the side of the pitch, or is that something that you try and do straight away?
Could be straight away. I think the ball is the best intervention. Jonny got in there first with it, but just it is so tempting. If I put a ball on this table right now, one of you guys would pick it up pretty quickly. And for a child, you're giving them that temptation that gets them involved within the game. I think fear of missing out is a big thing, and the thought process of a child being your assistant coach on the side of the pitch is that when they then see all the other kids happy, smiling, running around, at some point they're going to go, "I want to go and join in now," and you don't even have to encourage them. So it could be that you think that the intervention that shy child comes in with their parents, and depending on their age, you could say to them, "Absolutely fine, no worries whatsoever. Do you know what? Little Billy over there, him in his first week, he didn't join in at all. Do you know what he did? He was my assistant coach.
Yeah.
So why don't you come and be my assistant coach? Come stand with me, and you can help me coach the session." There's a scenario where 30 seconds later, the child's like, "Can I join in? I want to do that."
Yeah.
And you make it really fun, you make it really engaging, and then suddenly the child wants to participate. Of course, there's this chance where it's like, "I don't want to be your assistant coach."
Yeah.
And the reason we've become such experts in this particular question is our TOTS program. We've got a toddler football program called TOTS Football Fun. And as you can imagine, children 18 months, 2 years old, 3 years old are shy, are nervous. They're experiencing football for the very first time. They walk into a sports hall and see an inflatable football pitch, and that's really, really cool, but doesn't always mean they want to jump in and participate straight away. And those interventions, it's almost like a little menu, step-by-step process that you go through, go down, get to the child's level, talk about the Paw Patrol t-shirt, give them a football, walk away, come back, show the parent that you care, give them a little role that's not participating within the session, but doing something, and then try and ease them into it. But ultimately, it's educating the parent to tell them that it doesn't matter, it's fine, this happens. Billy over there, he did this for 3 weeks, and now look at him. Showing them that journey that they can go on, but also showing that you care, because the worst thing that you can do is just sort of leave them to it, speak to them once, and the parent and child goes off 45 minutes later and leaves the session, and they feel like they're a bit aggrieved because you haven't tried to get them into the session.
Brilliant points. 1-0 to Jonny. Don't worry, there's 4 questions. There's every chance of coming back. Ready for another question?
Yeah.
A usually confident player becomes quite withdrawn mid-season, midway through the season. How are you going to get to the root of that problem, Jonny?
Speak to their grown-up.
Speak to the child.
James?
So the first thing, you never know what's going on in a child's life, and it could be anything as small as someone took my Match Attax card, right through to something
small.
so something as big as right through to something serious. A serious situation that really affects the child psychologically. So asking the child, is everything okay? They may volunteer the information. I think the next step then would be, I've noticed, change in your behaviour. You're normally really upbeat and happy, and maybe you don't seem that way. Like, is everything okay? And asking again. I think then the next step would then, for me, be then speaking to the parent, because and saying something along the lines of, "Look, I've noticed that your daughter has been a bit reserved in the last few training sessions. Just want to make sure everything's okay and see if there's anything that I can do." So it's showing that you care, but also, like you said in the question, trying to get to the root of the problem. So I would probably go child first, then parent.
And is that like your responsibility to do that as a football goal, or you to sort of ask? Because it's such a, because we don't know no one has any idea what's going on in someone else's life, and to ask a question like that.
Yeah, I mean, this comes with a whole range of complexity from really small things, like we said, right through to safeguarding concerns.
No, exactly.
So like ultimately, like if there's a concern around a child and they're in your care, you have a duty of care to the child and to the family. So, and it may, but more often than not, it is going to be, someone said I'm not very good at football, or someone said this to me, or little things that you can deal with in the moment that are said between children. There's a problem that's happened within the session itself, rather than something serious that's been brought to the training session. But of course, is it your duty? I think you've got a duty of care, but ultimately, obviously, it's then referring that to the parent, because there is a scenario also where the parent's like, I'm not sure what's wrong with him. I don't know. And maybe the parent asking that question may get a different answer than the coach because of the relationship. So I think we've got a duty of care to make sure that we're playing our part in asking the right questions to kind of escalate whatever it is to the right place.
Jonny, you mentioned sort of going to the child grown up and speaking to them. Like, what was your sort of rationale behind
Well, James was due to go first and answer that question first, which I thought he was going to say player or child, so I preempted that and had parent in my head. But I can tell by the complexity of your face and the look on your face, you can't quite...
I comprehend what you're saying, but you were asked first. I gave you an opportunity.
I know, but I'd already had in my head that you were going to go to James first, so my answer in my head was grown up. To be honest, as you're talking, I actually think I probably would go to the grown up first. So you can cut all that from the edit, Ollie. But the thing for me is probably what you can do when you speak to the child. It could actually unlock something and put them in like an uncomfortable position. So you could say like, I've noticed that you're not quite yourself at the moment. What's wrong? And actually that could then cause them to get upset because their cat's just died or something at home. Whereas if you go to the parent first, it may be something that you don't need to then bring up to the child, don't need to draw attention to it. But speaking to the parent first, you can then understand what it is, and then you can go make the intervention. I think what it comes down to be honest, is your relationship and how out of character it is for that child. I think if you've got a really strong relationship with them and you've been working with them for a number of years, it may be appropriate to go directly to them. If they're really off it in their character, then you may decide to go to the parent first if you've got a good relationship with them. So judging it in the moment, but both for me work.
Yeah, and then like if a parent comes with, I'm sure we've all had it before, where a parent will come say something's happened within the family, for example, a pet passing away, something like that. Would that change how you are with them? Or that explains why they're a little bit withdrawn because they're obviously upset about that. But would it change anything having that information volunteered to you in terms of within those sessions, the next game, like that sort of thing? Or is it just having an awareness of it?
Yeah, it's the awareness piece, isn't it? And whether then the other children need to be made aware. Quite often not.
Yeah.
Quite often not knows the answer to that, but there may be circumstances where it's appropriate. But yeah, it's just being aware, because then you know the reason for the behaviour, and it might be that you need to do nothing. Yeah, you need to just be aware, and if they're acting a bit out of character, then it's just like, cool, let's just let this play out. Maybe that you need to ask the parent to let them know that you've been made aware as the coach, and that may be the small intervention, or it may even be that you need to say something that comforts the child directly. But quite often it's just having that awareness and recognising the behaviour and reporting that back to the grown up too, because you quite often football is. I found that as a coach, if you're having a bad day, you step foot onto the AstroTurf, you might not be so up for the session, but I guarantee that by the end of the session, you're in a much better mood, and that's what football tends to do, and certainly when you play as well. So even, having the awareness that you can go back to the parent and say, do you know what? He or she, like that, they were fantastic today, and you would never know that there's a problem or never know that there's an issue that they're facing. Saw that last week, haven't seen it this week, so maybe these football sessions are great for what's going on and dealing with that. So it's quite often the case, isn't it?
Yeah, great stuff. Tough question as well.
Yeah,
tough question.
Awesome. Yeah.
Let's go on to the next 1-1. A session keeps breaking down because a player doesn't know what they're doing. How are you going to keep that session flowing and deal with that, James?
So I think in the moment, I would move it on. So just move it on to the next person. So if it's a passing exercise and it comes to them and they just freeze with the ball or whatever, then it's just like move the ball on to the next person and then pull them out of the session maybe to watch and observe and explain. So it's dealing with it in the moment and then allowing the session to continue to then deal with the individual to try and help and support them.
Jonny?
Very similar. However, I'm not going to go with a similar answer. I would stop the session then and there and deliver a...
Stop, stand still.
Deliver a coaching
Berate the
point.
child.
Yeah.
And give a coaching point to the whole group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
There's a time and place for that, yeah.
I like that. Go on then, tell us more.
So I think if a child's at the front of the line, it's their go. If you pull them to one side, it might actually draw attention to the fact that that child is frozen, doesn't know what they're doing, and actually then the other children might then start talking and getting frustrated with that child and could then put additional pressure on them. Whereas if you were to take the focus away from that child, step in, deliver a coaching point, maybe you plan to get out later in the session, or change the structure of the game or walk it through again, but going harder on a point, it might then give them the opportunity to then see it in action. And then what you can do is similar to what James said, like, right, the next person's going to go, or whatever it may be, and then go and make that intervention one-to-one.
Could be a missed opportunity, couldn't it? If you took my approach, which is to pull the child, if actually 3 other kids in the session don't get it, and when it gets around to their turn, they don't know what to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas actually stopping it and just talking it through might be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I guess what we're trying to avoid is the child feeling like we're pinpointing them.
Yes,
Drawing attention
yeah,
to it. Yeah. So I think if you do stop it, it's important to almost go over the top on the fact that you're delivering that point to the whole group and not to the individual.
I like what you said there about, like, you could almost stop it for the reason that it's broken down, but actually not address that at all. That you could then just run the session through and talk about something else, but it just gives the opportunity for say it's a certain pattern, the ball's moving in or whatever.
Yeah.
It just gives the child the opportunity to see that. And then you could then have a little quiet word and it's like, do you understand now what you need to do when you get the ball? Yeah, I need to pass to him. Great. And it's just doing that in a more subtle way that doesn't go, stop, stand still, it's all broken down on this player's touch or whatever.
And would you question your session planning at all?
Yeah.
If, for example, just one child wasn't understanding, it was breaking down with them every time, would you question whether I've sort of planned the correct session for this group?
One thing that I've learned over the years is to always sort of question or blame myself. It's always my fault. If a child's misbehaving in the session, chances are it's my fault. If a child doesn't understand the session, the chances are it's my fault. So definitely would look in the mirror in that scenario. And what I try and do is before I say play, I check the understanding of the children. So just maybe a simple question, everyone understand? Cool, right, go play. It just then gives an opportunity for the child to then say, actually, I don't. Okay, no worries, come and see me. But yeah, I'd always sort of look in the mirror in that scenario.
Okay, next question. At the end of a session, a child comes up to you and says that they don't want to come back because they feel all the other kids are much better than them. How are you going to deal with that, John?
I would zoom in and concentrate on their superpower, and I would try and pick them up.
Pick them up, James?
I challenge their view that they're not as good as everyone else, and I'd explain that they are.
Good answers. I'm going to go with you, Jonny.
What, because it's 2-1 to James?
So I thought your answer was a little bit better than James's.
Thanks very
Quite
much.
incredibly, it makes it 2-2 in this week's
Get in.
episode.
So I think the reason the child's feeling like that is because it's probably somewhat true. I think children are pretty intuitive and actually they may realise that they're struggling within the group. But I think there's something that every single child there's one thing that they're best at. So I would then really lean into that and I would try and pick them up, build their confidence, get them excited about something that they're best at, whether it be character-based, effort-based, talent-based. But I'd really lean into that and try and change their view, get them excited about what they're really good at so they want to come back next week.
Have you ever been in that situation before?
Not because a child has come up and said those exact words, like with regards to, I'm not as good as everyone else. I've had that mid-session. I've not had that, I don't want to come back. Of like, I can't do this. I'm not as good as other people.
Quite often you might not know why.
Yeah.
So obviously in the way that we run our programs, we have, excuse me, so we have like a 3-week free trial and people come along and try it out, and so lots of children sign up. And then some children come along, maybe attend their first session and don't come back. And we seek feedback, and we have like automated feedback forms and things like that. But ultimately, there may be, that child may have gone home and said to their mum, I don't think I'm good enough to do this, or the other children were better than me. But sometimes we don't get to the root of that.
Yeah.
And that's a real challenge, isn't it? So I guess the opportunity within that is to try and have those conversations and catch those things, because wouldn't it be a shame if that child who in that situation, if we could have built their confidence within the session, then came along the next week, and then played football for years to come, versus then went, I'm going to go and try another sport or do something else or not participate at all. And I think that's the opportunity for a coach, that you can use football to enhance people's lives. Now it sounds a bit deep, but ultimately football has enhanced all of our lives in a massive way, and it's our job to make sure that when new children come into sessions, I think that's the real opportunity, to make them feel like $1 million and to give them and build their confidence and recognise the fact that they may be a bit nervous, a bit shy, a bit anxious, and what we can do to support them.
Going like this specific sort of case, a child comes up to you and says, I don't want to come back.
Yep.
It sort of feels like, obviously we're talking about shy, anxious children, that would be a child that's quite confident and like able to speak about how they're feeling and sort of say that. Would you be able to use that as a real positive, the fact that they've come and they've expressed themselves?
Yeah, definitely. You definitely praise that, wouldn't you, and say, like, love the fact that you're able to come and speak to me about these types of things. That's really important, that you're able to recognise how you're feeling, and definitely use that as an opportunity to big them up. I think, once again, looking in the mirror, something I always do when I coach, if they're feeling like that, it could have been the way that I've pitched the session or I've delivered the session. One thing I try and do as much as possible is challenge the children to better themselves or beat their own score. So that's something that you could also try and lean in during that conversation, is rather than compare them to the other children, talk about the progress that they've made over the period of time, over the last few weeks. So maybe, everyone's better than me. I'll go, well, actually, think how you were when you first started, now where you're at, and hopefully they will then see the progress that they've made. But definitely have those types of conversations when they're able to recognise like those types of things, to have the confidence to come and speak to you about. It's definitely an opportunity to highlight.
Yeah, and we've, like Jonny talked about a lot about like looking at himself. I mean, obviously you're a hugely experienced coach. Even with the experiences that you've had, how would that make you feel if a child come and said that?
Well, you want every kid to absolutely love it, right?
No, yeah, exactly.
You want every child
We're talking to a lot of grassroots coaches watching. Obviously, it may have, like, even with your experience, would you really feel that yourself if a child said that?
Yeah, a little bit. Kind of depends on the child, because we do experience where children come along to our sessions and some kids turn up in a full football kit and they really look and feel the part, and they're very much a young footballer. And other children turn up and they've maybe not got the kit or footwear or whatever, and you can see that they are maybe playing football for the first time, and it's recognising those cues as well. But yeah, to answer your question, I would feel like I want all the children to, I would want to back myself to say that I can get that kid who's turned up in his Pokemon t-shirt and some shoes that are a bit questionable in terms of suitability for the surface or whatever, and say I can inspire him or her to come and play the game of football and to participate. But I think the big opportunity for me is potentially asking, is there anything that we could do within the sessions that would make you enjoy it? That if there's to say that, I loved it when we did that last week.
Yeah.
And then go, what if we did that session now? Look, we've got 5 minutes now. I tell you what, would you join in? Would you come and play? If we then played that game that we played last week, and then to run the session and to give that child what they're looking for, just because there is a scenario where they literally, that's the end of football for them. And That's what we're trying to do, isn't it? Create lifelong association with football, because we know the value that can have for a child, and sometimes there's little pivotal moments like that. So it is on us as the coach to engage and inspire them, and to find, it's no different to managing people as an adult. You know, you're managing a group of staff within a corporate business. You have to find out what pushes people's buttons, and how to manage people, and it's no different with children really. What inspires them, what motivates them, and how can you hook them in?
No, I think that's what you said, like the last 5 minutes of the session. I'd love doing, like, one moment can change everything. Like, that can change the whole experience, particularly for a child. Like, when you think about, you mentioned earlier our TOTS programs where kids come, they're as young as 18 months, 2 years old, and sometimes they're really grumpy for the session, they might not have slept well, but they get the stamp on their hand at the end of the session. Yeah. And it's like that absolutely buzzing. That whatever's happened in the 45 minutes before that, they go home with a massive smile on it. And it's so important, isn't it, to find them moments, because for just that last 2 minutes to do that session, that little one, that can change everything in terms of their footballing experience.
Exactly that, yeah. It's finding something that they really enjoy, and sometimes those things can be completely random.
Yeah.
You know, and it could be a conversation about their Paw Patrol T-shirt. It could be being the assistant coach. I've had kids that, please can I be the assistant coach again? They want to do that I've had kids that when we go into a match at the end of the session, they want to be the referee.
Yeah.
And if that's what they want to do, and that's and then, because the chances are in a year or two's time they don't want to be the referee anymore, and they've matured and developed, and they're not a 6-year-old now, they're an 8-year-old, and now they want to participate, now they play for a team. But to help them on that journey, you have to find that little thing that hooks them in, and that's our job as a coach.
Brilliant. You ain't going to believe this, guys. We're down to the last question, and the score is 2-2.
Level pegging.
So we've got
high drama on the Football Fun Factory podcast.
Are you ready for question 5?
Ready. Let's do this.
Okay, last question. A child is fine in training, but start crying every time it comes to a match. How are you going to support them, John?
Looking in the mirror again, I would make sure that I'm creating the same environment both at training and on a match day. I'm trying to replicate that environment.
Replicating the environment, James?
I would, if that's happened in previous weeks, I would treat it a bit differently to a match. So I'd almost like not say, now we're going to play a match, because that's the trigger for them that makes them cry. So maybe build something into almost like a match play session that develops into a game without them even realising.
I like it. I like Johnny's better. Tell me some more about it.
Yes, I think performance anxiety is a thing for children, and when at training it's relaxed, there's no pressure, it's not a match. When they then get to a match day, parents are there, people on the sidelines, the referees in his kit, playing against another team of children, it can put that pressure on the children. So I think what is really important is you're trying to find similarities between both your training and a match day, trying to create that environment either in training so they get used to it and they're practicing being in that environment, or the reverse, trying to make a match day really relaxed and trying to make it really comfortable and trying to create that environment where children aren't nervous about stepping onto the pitch, they're taking the pressure away. But trying to make those two as similar as possible, I think, is the key.
It's hard to do that. Is it, like, in terms of feeling, training, going into a game, it has got a completely different feel to it, and especially as a young child potentially playing in their first games, and they get the really butterflies in their tummy, they're really nervous about it, and sort of being able to do that, I can imagine, is quite hard in a short period of time.
Yeah, and I think it's getting the parent on side and giving them some tools as well of what they can do. So getting them before the game to say, I'm so excited to see you play today. I love watching you play. I love seeing you run around with a smile on your face. Those types of things that are said to a child beforehand can help release their nerves, take the pressure away from the result, the match, and actually just know that their parents there to support them, that they love seeing them play. So therefore that might give them a little lift. But yeah, it definitely takes time and is something that is quite common within those younger age groups as well. But I think the more you can make them comfortable in that environment, the better.
Fantastic. James?
I would just, in that, to make it more like training, I'll just do everything we do in training. So I think if you're then turning up to the match and going in the changing room beforehand, then that's not what you do at training. So you just turn up in your kit if you do a little training session on the pitch and you set it up exactly like you did in training last week, and that's your warm up, rather than jogging across the pitch like people tend to do, or line up on the halfway line so the coach has said it and shooting the goal.
Yeah.
But I think it's just making it as familiar as possible so it doesn't feel like this is training, this is a match. They almost sort of blend into one.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. So massive congratulations to Jonny. I'm sure
Well done, Thanks very much.
As well. 3-2
Cheers, guys.
victory. Well done, you. Do you want a fun fact?
Love
Always.
a football fun fact.
You are never going to get this one.
Ooh.
Ever. I'm going to give you a chance, okay? There's 2 players that have won leagues in different countries across, well, the most titles won in different countries. There's 2. I want to know how many titles they've won and who they are. And I am convinced you won't get either of them.
The number of titles.
So different
across-
countries that they've won the league.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a certain amount of different countries that they've won the league in, and there's 2 players. I want the number. 6?
7.
7 players?
I just
You'll
don't
never
know.
get it.
I don't even know where to start.
Rivaldo
No.
and Didier Drogba.
No.
Luke Chadwick
No.
and Messi.
Okay, so you're all wrong. It's in 5 different countries.
Okay.
And the players are Mattea Kesman. Do you remember him from Chelsea?
Chelsea, yeah, I remember.
And Robinho.
Nice.
And Robinho didn't actually win it at Manchester City.
Could have been 6.
Talk about
I mean, that
fun
was-
facts.
That was right at the start of Man City having some cash, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
one of the
Robinho.
first big signings.
Yeah.
He's not in a great place now, is he?
Well, that was a whopper.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Football Fun Factory podcast. We'll see you again really soon.